Hey everyone, welcome back to another journey through the world of Dragon Ball. Tonight, we're diving deep into something truly special, the complete life story of one of the most iconic warriors in all of anime and manga history. From his humble beginnings on a dying planet to achieving powers that rival the gods themselves. This is the story of Goku, or as he was originally named, Kakarot. Before we begin this epic tale, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this kind of content. And let me know in the comments where you're from and what your favorite Goku moment is. Now, settle in, get comfortable, and let's explore the extraordinary life of the Saiyan who changed everything. Our story begins not on Earth, but on a planet far across the cosmos, a world known as Planet Vegeta. This wasn't just any planet. It was the home of the Saiyan race, a warrior species known throughout the universe for their incredible fighting abilities, their ruthless nature, and their insatiable appetite for battle. The Saiyans were not peaceful farmers or merchants. They were conquerors, mercenaries who sold their services to the highest bidder, traveling from world to world, purging planets of their inhabitants so they could be sold on the intergalactic market. It was a brutal existence, but it was the only life the Saiyans knew, and they thrived in it. Planet Vegeta itself was a harsh world, with gravity 10 times that of Earth, which explained why Saiyans developed such incredible physical strength from birth. The intense gravitational pull meant that even basic movements required tremendous muscular effort. And children who grew up in this environment developed dense bone structures and powerful physiques that would seem superhuman on lower gravity worlds. The society was structured around power levels, with elite warriors receiving special privileges, while low-class Saiyans were sent on the most dangerous missions, essentially treated as expendable soldiers. This hierarchical system was absolute and unforgiving. A Saiyan's worth was determined at birth by their power reading, and that single number could define their entire life trajectory. At the top of this hierarchy sat King Vegeta, the proud ruler who named the planet after himself, and his son, Prince Vegeta, who would one day become one of the universe's mightiest warriors. King Vegeta was a fierce leader who commanded respect through strength, ruling with an iron fist and maintaining the Saiyan military traditions that had made their race feared across multiple galaxies. His palace stood at the center of the main city, a testament to Saiyan power and ambition, with training facilities where elite warriors honed their skills and prepared for conquest. But ruling over the Saiyans, pulling their strings from the shadows, was an even greater power. The galactic tyrant known as Frieza. Frieza was a being of immense power and even greater cruelty, an emperor who controlled a vast portion of the known universe through fear and overwhelming force. His empire stretched across countless star systems, with powerful subordinates and massive armies enforcing his will. The Saiyans, despite their strength and pride, were ultimately servants to this tyrant, carrying out his orders while dreaming of the day they might overthrow him. They worked as planet brokers, clearing worlds of their inhabitants so Frieza could sell them to the highest bidder. King Vegeta chafed under this arrangement, hating that his proud warrior race had been reduced to hired thugs. But Frieza's power was simply too great to challenge directly. But Frieza was no fool. He had heard the legends, whispered stories of a Super Saiyan, a warrior of their race, who appeared once every 1,000 years with power so immense it could challenge even the gods. This legend spoke of a transformation triggered by intense emotion, where a Saiyan's hair would turn gold and their power would increase 50-fold, creating a warrior capable of destroying entire planets with ease. This legend haunted Frieza, filling him with a fear he would never openly admit, and so he decided to eliminate the threat entirely by destroying Planet Vegeta and the Saiyan race along with it. Better to wipe out a useful tool than allow it to become a potential threat to his empire. Among the many Saiyans living on Planet Vegeta were two individuals who would become crucial to our story, though they never lived to see their importance realized. The first was Bardock, a low-class Saiyan warrior who had spent his entire life fighting on the front lines, conquering planets and battling enemies across the galaxy. Bardock wasn't elite by Saiyan standards. His power level was respectable but not remarkable, hovering around 10,000, which made him strong by universal standards but unremarkable among Saiyans. He commanded a small team of fellow warriors who carried out Frieza's missions, and they had become something rare in Saiyan society. Genuine friends who watched each other's backs and celebrated their victories together. But Bardock had something many Saiyans lacked: a keen intuition and the ability to sense when something was wrong. He possessed a warrior's instinct that went beyond simple power levels, an almost supernatural ability to read situations and opponents. This instinct had saved his life countless times in battle, allowing him to anticipate attacks and react to threats that his teammates couldn't perceive. The second was Jeanne, Bardock's partner, and a Saiyan woman who was unusual among her kind. Unlike most Saiyans who reveled in battle and lived for the thrill of conquest, Jeanne had a gentler disposition. She had tried the warrior life, but found she didn't have the heart for it, lacking the ruthless edge and sadistic pleasure in violence that made Saiyans such effective warriors. Jeanne had retired from active combat and now worked as a meat distributor, processing and preparing the food that sustained the Saiyan population. Her gentle nature was so unusual that other Saiyans sometimes questioned whether she was truly one of them. But Bardock had been drawn to precisely this quality that made her unique. Their relationship was also unusual for Saiyans, who typically didn't form strong pair bonds or show much affection. But Bardock and Jeanne genuinely cared for each other, creating a partnership based on something more than just biological compatibility. Together, Bardock and Jeanne had two sons. The first was Raditz, who would grow up to become a mid-level warrior serving under Prince Vegeta. Raditz took after the typical Saiyan temperament, aggressive and proud, with long flowing hair and a power level that, while not elite, was certainly respectable. The second son was born in age 737, 3 years before Planet Vegeta's destruction, and was given the traditional Saiyan name Kakarot, derived from the vegetable carrot, following the Saiyan naming convention, where all members of the race had names related to vegetables. Kakarot's birth was unremarkable by Saiyan standards. He was classified as a low-class warrior with a power level of just 2, which was minimal even for a newborn Saiyan. In a society that valued strength above all else, this low reading essentially marked him as worthless, a disappointment barely worth the incubator he was placed in. Elite Saiyan babies might be born with power levels of 100 or more, marking them for special training and advancement. Kakarot, by contrast, was destined for the most menial and dangerous assignments. In Saiyan society, infants with low power levels were often sent to distant primitive planets as part of a long-term invasion strategy. These babies would grow up on the target world, eventually conquering it when they came of age, or in some cases, transforming into their great ape forms during the full moon and destroying all life on the planet in a single night of rampage. It was an efficient system that required minimal resources and eliminated weak Saiyans while still serving the Empire's expansion goals. Kakarot was destined for exactly such a fate. He was selected to be sent to a planet called Earth, a remote world in the unfashionable arm of the galaxy with no significant military force and inhabitants whose power levels were laughably low, mostly hovering between 3 and 5. It should have been a routine mission, another forgettable infant sent to prepare another worthless planet for sale. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Bardock had just returned from a mission on planet Kanasa when he began experiencing something extraordinary and terrifying. His team had been sent to clear the planet of its inhabitants, the Kanasans, a psychic race with unusual mental abilities. During the battle, one of the Kanasan warriors, dying from his wounds, had struck Bardock with a strange attack, a final curse from a defeated enemy. At first, Bardock thought nothing of it, dismissing the action as the desperate flailing of a dying opponent. But then the visions began. Bardock started having vivid, uncontrollable glimpses of the future. He would be performing routine tasks when suddenly his vision would blur, and he would see images that couldn't possibly be real. Explosions, battles, unfamiliar faces, and most disturbing of all, his own death. In these visions, he saw Planet Vegeta exploding in a massive fireball, every Saiyan warrior incinerated in an instant, their proud race reduced to cosmic dust. He saw Frieza, floating in space with his arms crossed, watching the planet's destruction with cold satisfaction and an amused smile. He saw his teammates, his friends who had fought beside him for years, burning in the explosion. At first, Bardock tried to dismiss these visions as hallucinations, perhaps a side effect of the Kanasan's attack. Maybe it was some kind of poison affecting his brain, creating false images and paranoid delusions. But the images became clearer and more insistent with each passing day. And with them came another vision, one of hope. He saw Kakarot, his infant son, grown into a powerful warrior. The grown Kakarot stood on an alien world with strange orange rocks, facing Frieza in combat. But something was different about his son in this vision. His hair had turned golden, standing up and glowing with an ethereal light, and his eyes had become teal and fierce. Energy crackled around his body like lightning, and the power radiating from him was immense, far beyond anything Bardock had ever felt. This grown Kakarot stood before Frieza not as a servant or victim, but as an equal, perhaps even as a superior. Bardock didn't understand what this meant. The golden hair, the transformation, It matched the old legends of the Super Saiyan. But those were just stories told to children, myths from 1,000 years ago. No Saiyan in living memory had achieved such a transformation, and most educated Saiyans dismissed the legend as primitive superstition. But the vision felt real, more real than anything Bardock had experienced, and he knew with absolute certainty that his son had to survive. If Planet Vegeta was truly going to be destroyed, if Frieza was planning to eliminate the Saiyan race, then Kakarot had to escape. Perhaps he was the key to fulfilling the ancient prophecy. Perhaps this infant with a power level of 2 would somehow become the legendary warrior. When Bardock shared his concerns with Gina, she immediately understood the gravity of the situation. Gina had always trusted Bardock's instincts, and the fear in his eyes told her everything she needed to know. The official story was that Frieza had summoned all Saiyans back to Planet Vegeta for a great celebration, supposedly to honor their service to the Empire. But Bardock's instincts and his visions told him this was a trap, a way to gather all the Saiyans in one place so Frieza could eliminate them efficiently with a single attack. Time was running out. Frieza's order was clear. All Saiyans, including those on distant missions, were to return immediately. Any day now, once everyone was assembled, Frieza would make his move. Gina, despite her gentle nature, agreed with Bardock's desperate plan. They would send Kakarot to Earth immediately, ahead of schedule, giving him a chance to escape whatever doom was about to befall their race. It wasn't the standard invasion protocol. They were essentially sending their infant son into exile, to a planet where he would grow up alone, never knowing his parents or his heritage. He would be raised by whatever primitive aliens inhabited Earth, becoming one of them rather than a Saiyan. But it was the only way to ensure his survival. Bardock also considered sending Raditz, but his older son was already off-planet on a mission with Prince Vegeta's squad, and there was no way to reach him in time. The scene of Kakarot's departure was one of quiet desperation. They went to the nursery, where Saiyan infants were kept in incubation pods, maintained at optimal temperature and fed nutrient solutions until they were ready for deployment. Gina lifted her infant son from his pod, holding him against her chest for what she knew would be the last time. She looked into his eyes, those innocent black eyes that had no comprehension of what was happening, and wondered what kind of life awaited him among the stars. Would he be happy on Earth? Would the inhabitants there treat him kindly? Would he even survive the journey and the landing? These questions tormented her, but she pushed them aside, focusing on the only thing that mattered, giving her son a chance to live. Bardock, the hardened warrior who had conquered countless planets without remorse, who had ended civilizations and never lost a night's sleep, found himself struggling with emotions he barely understood. His hands trembled slightly as he prepared the space pod, programming it with Earth's coordinates and setting it for maximum speed. He checked and rechecked the systems, making sure the pod's life support would last for the entire journey, that the landing protocols would deploy properly to cushion the impact. He attached a device to the pod that would transmit Kakarot's mission parameters once he arrived. Conquer Earth eliminate its inhabitants, and prepare it for sale. Of course, Bardock hoped his son would never follow these orders, that growing up among Earth's people would change him. But he had to maintain the appearance of a standard deployment in case anyone was watching. They placed the infant into the small spherical space pod, a cramped vessel designed for long-distance travel by very small passengers. The pod had a rounded window in front, cushioned interior surfaces, and minimal controls since the passenger would be unconscious for most of the journey. As the pod's door sealed shut with a hiss of pressurizing air, Kakarot looked out at his parents for the last time, though he was far too young to form any memories of this moment. Gina pressed her hand against the window, tears streaming down her face, a display of emotion that would have shocked any Saiyan who witnessed it. Bardock placed his hand over hers, his jaw clenched tight, fighting to maintain his composure. With a burst of energy and a roar of primitive rocket engines, the pod launched into the sky, carrying the infant Saiyan away from Planet Vegeta, away from his race, and toward a destiny that would reshape the entire universe. The pod climbed rapidly through the planet's thick atmosphere, leaving a trail of fire as it accelerated to escape velocity. Within minutes, it had left Planet Vegeta behind, becoming just another point of light in the vast cosmos, indistinguishable from the countless stars surrounding it. Bardock and Gina watched until they could no longer see it, standing in silence as their son disappeared into the unknown. Bardock didn't live to see if his plan succeeded. After sending Kakarot away, he tried to warn the other Saiyans about Frieza's intentions, flying through the city and shouting about the visions, about the coming destruction. But they dismissed him as a fool, a low-class warrior who had lost his mind, perhaps damaged in battle or suffering from some strange space illness. The elite warriors laughed at him, mocking his warnings and telling him to stop embarrassing himself. Even his own teammates thought he had gone mad, trying to calm him down and suggesting he rest. Desperate and knowing his time was short, Bardock made a final futile decision. He flew directly toward Frieza's ship, which was positioned in orbit above Planet Vegeta, a massive vessel that dwarfed any Saiyan spacecraft. He could see other Saiyans gathering on the planet's surface, assembling for the supposed celebration, completely unaware of their fate. Bardock powered up to his maximum level, his white and red battle armor glowing with energy as he rocketed toward the tyrant's vessel. Frieza, monitoring the planet from his ship's observation deck, noticed the lone Saiyan approaching and was mildly amused. Here was one who had figured it out, one who understood what was about to happen. Frieza floated out into the vacuum of space, his body naturally adapted to survive without atmosphere, and waited for Bardock to approach. When Bardock came close enough, screaming challenges and accusations, Frieza smiled that cold smile that had been the last thing countless beings had seen before death. Bardock fired everything he had, blast after blast of ki energy aimed at the tyrant, pouring all his rage and desperation into the attack. But Frieza simply floated there, allowing the blast to dissipate against his body without causing even the slightest damage. When Bardock finally exhausted himself, breathing hard and hovering in space, Frieza raised a single finger. A small sphere of orange and red energy appeared at his fingertip, no bigger than a baseball. Then it began to grow, expanding rapidly into a massive ball of destructive force, large enough to dwarf planets. This was the supernova, Frieza's ultimate attack, and he had used it to destroy countless worlds. With casual ease, Frieza hurled the massive energy sphere toward Planet Vegeta. Bardock, realizing what was happening, flew directly toward it, screaming in defiance, firing one last desperate attack at the approaching doom. But it was futile. The supernova pushed through his resistance as though it wasn't even there, consuming him in an instant. The last thing Bardock saw before the energy enveloped him was a vision. His son, Kakarot, now grown, standing before Frieza with golden hair blazing, ready to avenge his people. Bardock smiled, believing that somehow, some way, his son would fulfill the legend of the Super Saiyan. The supernova crashed into Planet Vegeta's surface seconds later. The planet exploded in a brilliant flash of light that could be seen from neighboring star systems, taking with it nearly every member of the Saiyan race. King Vegeta, caught in his palace plotting rebellion, was vaporized before he even understood what was happening. His royal guard, his elite warriors, all gone in an instant. Bardock's team, celebrating in a bar and toasting to their fallen comrades' delusions, never knew what hit them. Jeanne, still standing where she had watched her son's pod depart, closed her eyes and smiled, her last thought being hope that Kakarot would survive and thrive on his new world. Countless other Saiyans, warriors who had conquered galaxies, were all obliterated in seconds. The explosion left nothing but debris, a field of asteroids that had once been a planet. Frieza watched the destruction with satisfaction, finally free of the fear that had haunted him. The Saiyan threat was eliminated, or so he believed. He had no way of knowing that several Saiyans had survived. Prince Vegeta, who had been on a mission with Nappa and Raditz, and one infant in a space pod traveling through the cosmos toward an obscure planet called Earth. That infant, Kakarot, would indeed fulfill his father's vision, becoming the legendary Super Saiyan and the instrument of Frieza's ultimate defeat. But that moment was years away, and first, the infant had to survive his journey and landing. The space pod carrying Kakarot traveled through the cosmos for days. Its small passenger, sleeping peacefully inside, kept in a state of suspended animation to conserve oxygen and resources. The pod's automated systems guided it toward its destination, adjusting course to account for gravitational fields and avoiding asteroid belts and other hazards. Inside, Kakarot remained blissfully unaware of everything: his parents' sacrifice, his race's destruction, his true nature and purpose. He was simply an infant sleeping, dreaming whatever dreams infants dream, as his tiny vessel carried him across the galaxy. The journey took nearly a month, the pod traveling at speeds that would have killed any unprotected being, but were perfectly safe within the vessel's protective field. It passed through nebulas and star clusters, navigated around binary star systems, and eventually entered a relatively quiet sector of space where a small yellow sun had several planets in orbit around it. The third planet from that sun, a world covered mostly in water with patches of green and brown land, was the destination. This was Earth, and it would become the only home Kakarot would ever truly know. The pod's descent through Earth's atmosphere was violent and spectacular. It entered over the Pacific Ocean at tremendous speed, creating sonic booms that rattled windows hundreds of miles away. The friction of atmospheric entry turned the pod into a meteor, burning through the sky with a tail of fire that stretched for miles. People across Eastern Asia looked up and saw what they thought was a shooting star. Making wishes on what was actually an alien infant arriving to potentially conquer their world. The pod's heat shields protected its passenger, but the exterior temperature reached thousands of degrees as it plummeted toward the surface. The pod's automated landing systems deployed as it descended over land, firing retro rockets to slow the descent and adjust the trajectory toward a suitable landing site. The systems identified a remote mountainous region far from any major civilization, an area with few humans and plenty of space for impact. The pod crashed into the side of Mount Paozu, creating a small crater and sending up a plume of dust and debris. The impact would have killed any normal infant, but Kakarot, protected by both Saiyan durability and the pod's safety systems, was perfectly fine. The pod's door hissed open after a moment, releasing the infant Saiyan into an alien world. Kakarot's cries echoed through the mountains, lusty wails that spoke of hunger and discomfort after the long journey. The air was different here, richer in oxygen than Planet Vegeta's atmosphere, and the gravity was only a tenth of what Saiyans were accustomed to. To Kakarot, still an infant without the understanding to process these differences, it simply meant he could move more easily, though he didn't know why. It wasn't long before someone came to investigate the strange object that had fallen from the sky. The crash had been visible for miles, and the impact had shaken the ground enough to be felt in the nearby valleys. That someone was an elderly martial artist named Gohan, who lived alone in the mountains, practicing his techniques and living a simple, peaceful life. Gohan had been a student of Master Roshi decades ago, learning the Turtle School martial arts before choosing to retire to the mountains and develop his own understanding of the martial way. When Gohan approached the crater, moving carefully and wondering if perhaps a meteor had fallen, he was shocked to discover it wasn't a space rock at all, but some kind of technological device. The spherical pod was unlike anything he had ever seen, with strange symbols etched into its surface and a window revealing something inside. When he peered through that window, his shock intensified. Inside was a small baby with a monkey tail, crying and reaching out with tiny hands. Gohan's first reaction was pure confusion. How did a baby get inside this thing? Where did it come from? Why did the child have a tail? Despite the child's unusual appearance, particularly that tail which seemed to move on its own with prehensile control, Gohan's heart was moved with compassion. Whatever this child was, wherever it came from, it was clearly alone and needed help. Gohan worked to open the pod, eventually figuring out the external release mechanism. He lifted the infant from the pod, wrapping him in cloth to protect him from the mountain chill. The baby immediately stopped crying once held, seeming to respond to the warmth and comfort of human contact. Gohan decided to adopt the strange child, unable to simply leave him alone in the mountains. He carried the infant back to his modest home, a small house he had built himself with its own water source and garden. He gave the child a new name, Son Goku. In Chinese, which Gohan studied as part of his philosophical practice, Son meant grandson and was also Gohan's family name, while Goku meant aware of emptiness, a Buddhist concept that reflected Gohan's own philosophical approach to life and martial arts. It was a name that carried meaning and weight, reflecting the old man's hope that this strange child might grow to understand the deeper aspects of existence. But the early days with Goku were far from peaceful, testing Gohan's patience and physical endurance in ways decades of martial arts training hadn't prepared him for. The infant retained his Saiyan nature, his instinct for combat, and his incredible strength. Even as a baby, Goku was wild and aggressive, crying loudly and striking out with surprising force whenever he was upset. Gohan, despite his martial arts training and his advanced age giving him wisdom and patience, found himself completely overwhelmed by the child. Goku would break furniture with casual swipes of his tiny arms, his Saiyan strength making even his infant flailing dangerous. He destroyed household items simply by grabbing them too hard, his grip strength enough to crush wood and bend metal. When hungry, he would wail with such volume that it echoed through the valleys, frightening wildlife for miles around. When Gohan tried to calm him, Goku would sometimes headbutt or strike him. And those blows, even from an infant, were powerful enough to leave bruises, and once even crack one of Gohan's ribs. The situation seemed hopeless, and Gohan found himself wondering if he had made a terrible mistake in taking in this strange, powerful child. He considered trying to find the baby's real parents, whoever they might be, but he had no idea where to even begin looking. The strange pod offered no clues he could decipher, its alien writing meaningless to him. For weeks, Gohan struggled, barely sleeping, constantly dealing with Goku's aggressive outbursts and incredible strength. He loved the child, had already bonded with him despite everything, but he worried about what would happen as Goku grew older and stronger. Then, one day, everything changed in a single terrible moment. Goku, now several months old and becoming more mobile, was playing near a cliff while Gohan prepared their evening meal. The old man had his back turned for just a moment, but that was all it took. Goku, chasing after a butterfly with typical infant single-mindedness, went over the edge. Gohan heard the cry and spun around, his heart stopping as he saw the empty spot where Goku had just been. He rushed to the cliff and looked down to see Goku, falling down a deep ravine, tumbling through the air toward the rocks far below. Gohan tried to reach him, moving faster than he had in years, but it was too late. Goku struck his head severely on a rock outcropping, the impact producing a sickening crack that Gohan heard even from his position above. The infant's body went limp and continued falling, eventually landing in a bush that partially cushioned the final impact. Gohan climbed down the ravine as fast as his old body would allow, his hands bleeding from grabbing sharp rocks, his breath coming in panicked gasps. When he reached Goku, he feared the worst. But miraculously, Goku was breathing, unconscious with a terrible swelling on his head, but alive. Gohan gently lifted the child and made the arduous climb back up, then rushed home to tend to his injuries. For 3 days, Goku remained unconscious, his breathing shallow, and Gohan stayed by his side constantly, applying cold compresses and praying to any gods that might listen that the child would recover. On the 4th day, Goku's eyes opened, but something fundamental had changed. When Goku recovered, his violent disposition was gone, completely erased as though it had never existed. The aggressive warrior instincts that had been programmed into him by his Saiyan biology, the natural tendency toward violence and conquest that defined his race, were suppressed by the head trauma. In their place emerged a cheerful, gentle personality, a child who smiled and laughed rather than growled and struck. The kind-hearted, good-natured boy who would become Earth's greatest defender was born in that moment of injury. Gohan was overjoyed by the change, though he felt guilty about it too, knowing it had come at the cost of brain injury. But Goku seemed perfectly fine in every other way, hitting all his developmental milestones and showing no signs of impairment. If anything, he was advancing faster than normal human children, walking and talking earlier than expected. The only difference was his personality, transformed from terrifying to endearing. From that point forward, Gohan raised Goku in the mountains with joy and pride, teaching him martial arts and basic survival skills. They lived a simple life that followed the rhythms of nature, rising with the sun and sleeping when darkness fell. They hunted for food, Gohan teaching Goku how to track animals and harvest plants. They fished in the mountain streams, Goku learning patience as he waited for fish to bite. They trained in the mornings, Gohan showing Goku the forms and techniques of the martial arts he had spent his life perfecting. Gohan taught Goku his own fighting style, techniques that emphasized balance, awareness, and respect for one's opponent. The style focused on using an opponent's force against them, on moving efficiently and striking precisely, rather than relying on brute strength. Goku proved to be a remarkably quick learner, absorbing techniques after seeing them only once or twice, and mastering forms that should have taken years to perfect. His Saiyan biology gave him advantages that Gohan never fully understood. Incredible strength for his size that made him capable of things no human child could achieve. Reflexes that seemed almost superhuman, allowing him to react to threats before Gohan even perceived them. And a limitless well of energy that meant he never seemed to tire no matter how long they trained. But beyond the physical training, beyond teaching Goku how to fight and survive, Gohan instilled in him important values that would shape every decision the boy would ever make. He taught Goku about kindness, about treating others with compassion and understanding. He taught him about honesty, about the importance of keeping one's word and living with integrity. Most importantly, he taught him about protection, about using one's strength to defend those weaker than oneself, rather than to dominate or control them. These lessons would shape Goku's character throughout his entire life, creating a warrior who fought not for conquest or glory, but to protect others and test his own limits. Years passed in peaceful contentment. Goku grew from an infant to a child, his tail never quite seeming unusual to either of them, since it had always been there. Gohan never discovered where Goku truly came from, never learned about the Saiyans or Planet Vegeta. To him, Goku was simply his grandson, the child who had come from the stars to brighten his final years. They were happy together, two people living simply in the mountains. And Gohan sometimes thought he might live long enough to see Goku grow into adulthood. But fate had other plans, and the peaceful life in the mountains came to a tragic end one night when the full moon rose in a cloudless sky. Goku, still very young, perhaps 4 or 5 years old, looked up at the moon's light, and something ancient and primal stirred within his Saiyan blood. His tail began to tingle with strange energy, and his body started to transform in a way that defied all logic and reason. He grew larger, his small body expanding rapidly as his bones stretched and muscles bulged. His features became more bestial, his face pushing forward into a muzzle filled with enormous fangs. Fur sprouted across his body, thick and brown, covering him completely. Within seconds, the small boy had transformed into an Uzaru, the great ape form that all Saiyans with tails could access under the light of a full moon. In this form, Goku's power increased tenfold, his already impressive strength multiplying into something truly terrifying. But his mind was lost to savage instinct, over by primitive rage that knew only destruction. The great ape Goku rampaged through the mountains, destroying everything in his path. He smashed through trees that had stood for centuries, reducing them to splinters with casual swipes of his enormous arms. He shattered boulders with his fists, sent rock slides tumbling down into valleys. His roars echoed for miles, a sound of pure animal fury that sent every living thing fleeing in terror. Gohan, awakened by the noise, came out of the house to investigate and found himself face to face with the monster his grandson had become. He tried to reach Goku, calling his name and hoping the boy might recognize his voice, but there was no recognition in those enormous eyes, only mindless rage. The great ape advanced, and Gohan, despite his skills and experience, could do nothing. He was caught in the rampage, crushed beneath an enormous foot, his body broken in an instant. The kind old man who had taken in an alien child and raised him as his own grandson was killed by the very person he had saved. When Goku returned to his normal form the next morning, as he inevitably did when the moon set, he had no memory of what had happened. This was the nature of the great ape transformation. The Saiyan who transformed retained no memories of their actions, making it impossible for them to learn from the experience or control their savage state. Goku woke up feeling tired and confused, wondering why he was lying in a crater far from home. He returned to find his grandfather's body and his home destroyed, but he had no understanding of the cause. Goku believed that some wild animal or monster must have attacked during the night, never suspecting that he himself was responsible. The guilt and grief of this misunderstanding would stay with him, a mystery that haunted him even as he moved forward with his life. Devastated by the loss of the only family he had ever known, young Goku buried his grandfather with his own hands. Digging a grave on the mountainside where Gohan had loved to sit and watch the sunset. He marked the grave with a simple stone and made a promise to honor his grandfather's memory by continuing to train and live by the values he had been taught. Goku decided to continue living in their mountain home, maintaining the training regimen that Gohan had established. Every morning, he would practice the forms Gohan had taught him, moving through the techniques with precision and remembering his grandfather's corrections and encouragement. He hunted and fished to feed himself, using the skills Gohan had patiently taught him. He lived alone for several years, meeting few other people and developing an innocent, naive perspective on the world that came from having almost no social interaction. Without Gohan to teach him about society, about social norms and human behavior, Goku developed his own understanding of the world, one based primarily on his personal experiences and Gohan's moral teachings. This solitary existence shaped Goku in fundamental ways. He became self-reliant and comfortable with solitude, but he also remained innocent and trusting because he had never encountered cruelty or deception. He measured people by their fighting spirit and their kindness. The two things Gohan had emphasized most, without understanding concepts like social status or material wealth. This simplicity would later become one of his greatest strengths, allowing him to see through deception and judge people by their true character, rather than their words or appearances. The peaceful, solitary existence would continue until a fateful encounter with a girl searching for magical orbs would change his life forever. But that is where we'll pause for now, having covered the first 5,000 words of Goku's extraordinary journey. Goku was 12 years old when his solitary life in the mountains came to an abrupt and bewildering end. He had spent the morning, as he always did, practicing the forms Grandpa Gohan had taught him, moving through the ancient martial arts techniques with fluid precision. He had caught fish for breakfast, trained until the sun reached its peak, and was now out foraging for wild mushrooms and herbs to supplement his evening meal. The mountains were quiet, as they always were, with only the sound of wind through the trees and the occasional call of birds breaking the silence. Goku had grown comfortable with this solitude, finding peace in the rhythms of nature and his daily training routine. Then he heard it, a strange mechanical roar, echoing through the valley, unlike anything he had ever encountered. It grew louder rapidly, and Goku looked up to see a bizarre contraption bouncing along the mountain path. A wheeled vehicle that moved impossibly fast and made terrible grinding noises. Inside sat a girl with blue hair, her attention focused on a small device in her hand rather than the treacherous path ahead. Goku stood in the middle of the trail, frozen with curiosity, trying to understand what this strange thing was. Bulma Brief, wealthy teenage genius and daughter of the Capsule Corporation president, was completely absorbed in her Dragon Radar, watching the blip that indicated a Dragon Ball somewhere very close. She had already collected 2 of the legendary orbs and was thrilled to be closing in on a third. Her eyes were on the screen when she should have been watching the road, and by the time she looked up and saw the strange boy standing there, it was far too late to stop. The car slammed into Goku at full speed with a sickening crunch of metal meeting flesh. Bulma screamed, certain she had just killed someone. her hands shaking on the steering wheel as the car came to a stop. She sat frozen for a moment, afraid to look, her mind racing with thoughts of police and lawsuits and how angry her father would be. Then she heard something that made no sense. The sound of someone talking, asking questions, very much alive. She stepped out of the car, her legs trembling, and found the boy sitting up, rubbing his head with a confused expression, but otherwise completely unharmed. Her car, on the other hand, had a massive dent in the front bumper where it had struck him. "What was that thing?" Goku asked, standing and walking around the car with fascination, running his hands over the metal surface. He had never seen a vehicle before, had no concept of modern technology beyond the most basic tools. To him, this was like encountering an alien artifact, which in a sense was ironic. Bulma stared at him in shock, her scientific mind struggling to process what she had just witnessed. She had hit him hard enough to dent metal, and he was acting like nothing had happened. You're okay?" She managed to stammer, her voice shaking. "I hit you with my car at like 30 miles per hour. You should be dead or at least seriously injured." Goku tilted his head, not understanding most of those words, and simply smiled. "I'm fine. I'm really tough. Grandpa always said so." He noticed her outfit then, the capsule corp jacket and short skirt, and his eyes widened. "Are you a monster?" he asked innocently, having never seen a girl before and assuming anything unfamiliar must be dangerous. Bulma's shock turned to indignation instantly. "A monster? I'm a girl, you ignorant mountain hick!" she shouted, her temper flaring as it often did. She launched into an explanation of human anatomy and gender, which only confused Goku more, since he had no framework for understanding any of it. Their conversation was absurd, with Bulma growing increasingly frustrated by Goku's complete lack of social knowledge and Goku remaining cheerfully oblivious to her anger. Eventually, Bulma remembered why she was there in the first place. Her dragon radar was still beeping, indicating a Dragon Ball was very close, possibly in Goku's house. She explained what she was looking for, describing the orange orbs with red stars, and Goku's expression changed immediately. "Oh, you mean my grandpa's treasure," he said excitedly. "I have that. It's the only thing I have left from him." He led her to his small house and showed her the 4-star Dragon Ball, which he kept on a shelf, almost like a shrine to Gohan's memory. Bulma's eyes lit up with greed and excitement. 3 Dragon Balls already, and she had barely started her journey. She immediately began trying to convince Goku to give her the ball, offering money, technology, anything she could think of. But Goku refused every offer, explaining that the ball was all he had left of his grandfather, that it was precious beyond anything else. His simple sincerity struck something in Bulma, making her realize this wasn't just an object to him, but a connection to someone he loved. Finally, they reached a compromise. Goku would join Bulma on her quest to find the remaining Dragon Balls, bringing his grandfather's ball with him. Once they gathered all 7 and summoned the dragon, Shenron, Bulma would make her wish for a perfect boyfriend, then Goku could keep his 4-star ball forever. The Dragon Balls would scatter again after the wish was made. but Goku would know where his went and could retrieve it. For Goku, this sounded like an adventure, a chance to see the world beyond his mountains and test his strength against whatever challenges they might face. He agreed immediately, gathering a few belongings and his power pole, an extending staff that Gohan had given him, before joining Bulma on what would become a journey that changed his entire life. Their adventure together introduced Goku to the wider world in ways both wondrous and bewildering. They encountered the shape-shifting pig Oolong in a village he was terrorizing, and Goku defeated him easily, though he was confused about why someone would use such power to bully innocent people. They met Yamcha, a desert bandit who initially attacked them for their capsules and money, leading to Goku's first real fight with someone close to his skill level. The battle excited Goku tremendously, his Saiyan blood singing with the thrill of combat, even though he didn't understand why he loved fighting so much. Eventually, their journey led them to the Calm House, a small island home in the middle of the ocean where Master Roshi lived. Master Roshi, also known as the Turtle Hermit, was a legendary martial artist whose reputation stretched back decades. When Goku mentioned that his grandfather Gohan had trained him, Roshi's demeanor changed entirely. "Gohan was my student many years ago," Roshi explained, his usually playful expression becoming serious and nostalgic. "One of my best students, actually. He took my teachings and developed his own style, his own understanding. I always hoped I might see him again." Learning that Gohan had passed away saddened Roshi, but meeting Gohan's grandson brought him genuine joy. He saw in Goku the same potential, the same pure heart that had made Gohan such a remarkable student. When Roshi asked Goku to demonstrate what he had learned, the boy moved through forms that Roshi recognized immediately as evolved versions of techniques he had taught Gohan decades ago. "Your grandfather taught you well," Roshi said approvingly. "You have raw talent I rarely see. With proper training, you could become extraordinary." This first adventure eventually culminated in a confrontation with the Pilaf Gang, a group of would-be world conquerors who had also been collecting Dragon Balls. Emperor Pilaf, a short blue creature with delusions of grandeur, had managed to gather 6 Dragon Balls and was only missing 1. Through various circumstances involving traps, escapes, and Goku transforming into a great ape when he saw the full moon during their imprisonment, they managed to prevent Pilaf from making his wish for world domination. Oolong, in a moment of quick thinking, shouted out a wish for panties before Pilaf could speak, and the eternal dragon, Shenron, granted that ridiculous wish instead. The Dragon Balls scattered across the world once more, and Goku's 4-star ball flew off into the distance. Though Bulma didn't get the perfect boyfriend she wanted, the adventure had given her something more valuable: friends and experiences that changed her perspective. For Goku, the journey awakened something he hadn't known was missing. He had seen the world, met different people, tested his strength in real combat, and discovered there was so much more to learn. When Master Roshi offered to train him, to teach him the Turtle School martial arts that had been the foundation for Grandpa Gohan's techniques, Goku accepted without hesitation. Goku traveled to the Calm House to begin his training, carrying few possessions and enormous enthusiasm. Master Roshi, however, had conditions before he would accept students. As a test of determination and resourcefulness, he asked Goku to bring him a beautiful woman. For most people, this would have been an impossible or at least very difficult task. But Goku, in his innocent and straightforward way, simply went to the nearest city and happened to rescue a woman from a burning building. He brought her to Roshi, having no idea that the payment was supposed to be a nearly impossible test. Roshi, both impressed and slightly disappointed that his scheme had actually worked, agreed to take Goku as a student. Shortly after, another boy arrived at the Calm House seeking training. Krillin was a young monk from the Orin Temple who had been bullied and looked down upon by the other monks because of his short stature and lack of natural talent. He was desperate to become stronger, to prove himself, and had heard that Master Roshi was the greatest martial arts teacher in the world. Krillin also brought a payment of a beautiful woman, though his was obtained through far more questionable means that Roshi chose not to examine too closely. Seeing two eager students, Roshi decided to train them together, believing they would push each other to greater heights. Master Roshi's training methodology was unlike anything either boy expected. They had imagined learning secret techniques, practicing advanced forms, perhaps meditating to unlock inner power. Instead, Roshi handed them 50-pound turtle shells to wear on their backs and told them they would be delivering milk. Every morning before dawn, they had to run across the island delivering bottles of milk to customers, all while wearing the heavy shells. The work was exhausting, made worse by Roshi's insistence that they race each other, neither wanting to lose to the other. After milk delivery came construction work. They worked on building sites, moving heavy materials, digging foundations, all with the turtle shells still on their backs. Then came agricultural work, plowing fields by hand, planting crops, harvesting vegetables. They swam through shark-infested waters, climbed cliffs, and even studied academics, because Roshi believed a strong fighter needed a strong mind to match their body. Every task seemed unrelated to martial arts, and both Goku and Krillin grew frustrated, wondering when the real training would begin. What they didn't realize was that this was the real training. Every task was carefully designed to build specific attributes. The milk delivery built leg strength and endurance while teaching them to move quickly while carrying weight. Construction work developed overall body strength and taught them to work as a team. Swimming built cardiovascular endurance and taught them to stay calm in dangerous situations. The academics, meanwhile, were teaching them strategy, how to think and adapt rather than just react. Roshi's method was about building a foundation so solid that everything else would come naturally. Goku and Krillin pushed each other constantly throughout this training. Neither wanted to be outdone by the other, creating a rivalry that was intense but friendly. When Goku would run faster during milk delivery, Krillin would push himself harder the next day. When Krillin would lift heavier weights during construction, Goku would challenge himself to do better. This competition made them both grow exponentially stronger, their power levels increasing at rates that even Roshi found remarkable. More importantly, they became genuine friends, learning to support each other while still maintaining their competitive drive. After 8 months of this intensive training, Roshi decided his students were ready to test their skills against others. He entered them in the World Martial Arts Tournament, a prestigious competition held every 5 years where the strongest fighters from around the world gathered to prove their abilities. The tournament had prize money, prestige, and most importantly, the chance to fight strong opponents. For Goku, the prize money meant nothing, but the promise of good fights made his heart race with excitement. The 21st World Martial Arts Tournament was Goku's first real taste of competitive martial arts. The preliminary rounds were easy, almost boring, as he faced opponents who couldn't even touch him. His speed and strength were so far beyond theirs that the matches ended in seconds. Krillin also advanced easily, defeating opponents who had trained for decades with techniques that Roshi's unusual training had made second nature. Both students made it to the finals, along with a mysterious fighter named Jackie Chun, who wore sunglasses and seemed vaguely familiar. Goku's matches in the finals were more challenging and far more exciting. He faced opponents who could actually keep up with him, who had techniques he had never seen before. Each fight pushed him to adapt, to think creatively, to use the skills Roshi had built in him through months of seemingly mundane labor. He advanced through the brackets, defeating skilled martial artists and earning respect from fighters much older and more experienced than himself. Finally, he reached the championship match against Jackie Chun. The battle between Goku and Jackie Chun was intense, beyond anything Goku had experienced. Jackie Chun matched his speed, countered his techniques, and demonstrated martial arts mastery that seemed impossible. They traded blows that shook the tournament stage, moved so fast that spectators could barely follow their movements, and pushed each other to absolute limits. Goku unveiled techniques he had never used before, instinctive adaptations that surprised even himself. Jackie Chun responded with attacks that seemed impossible, including the Kamehameha wave, a beam of concentrated energy that Goku somehow managed to copy after seeing it just once. The match went back and forth, neither fighter able to gain a decisive advantage. Both were exhausted, their bodies pushed beyond what should have been possible, yet neither would surrender. In the end, Jackie Chun won by the narrowest of margins, using a combination of superior experience and a desperate gambit that barely succeeded. The crowd went wild, having witnessed what many considered the greatest tournament match in history. After the tournament, Jackie Chun revealed his true identity. He was Master Roshi in disguise. He had entered the tournament specifically to ensure his students didn't win too easily. If you had won, you might have become arrogant, Roshi explained to his shocked students. You might have thought you had reached the peak, that there was nothing left to learn. I wanted you to understand that there's always someone stronger, always more to discover. Rather than being disappointed by the deception, Goku was energized. The loss didn't feel like failure, but like promise. If Master Roshi was that strong, then Goku could become that strong too, and maybe even stronger. Following the tournament, Goku set out on a new quest, one driven by personal desire rather than someone else's wish. He wanted to find his grandfather's 4-star Dragon Ball, which had scattered after Oolong's Panty's wish. Using Bulma's Dragon Radar, which she had modified and improved, Goku began tracking the ball's location. This journey would lead him into conflict with one of the most dangerous organizations on Earth, the Red Ribbon Army. The Red Ribbon Army was a powerful military organization with bases across the globe, thousands of soldiers, advanced weaponry, and ambitious plans for world domination. They had been collecting Dragon Balls for their own purposes, seeking to wish for control over the entire world. Commander Red, their diminutive leader, had a secret wish he kept from even his most trusted subordinates. But his organization's resources and ruthlessness made them a threat to everyone who stood in their way. Goku's first encounter with the Red Ribbon Army was almost accidental. He tracked a Dragon Ball to one of their bases and simply walked in, asking politely if he could have it. When they refused and then attacked him, Goku defended himself, not fully understanding that he was taking on an entire military installation. He defeated soldier after soldier, his training under Roshi having made him far stronger than any normal human. The base commanders, shocked that a single child was dismantling their forces, called for reinforcements and special operatives. This pattern repeated as Goku tracked Dragon Balls to different Red Ribbon bases. Each time, he would arrive with innocent intentions, be attacked, and then defend himself by defeating everyone present. He didn't seek to destroy the Red Ribbon Army as an organization. He simply wanted the Dragon Balls they had taken. But his actions were crippling their operations, defeating their best soldiers and commanders and making their leadership increasingly desperate. The Red Ribbon Army's desperation led them to hire mercenary Tao, considered the world's greatest assassin. Tao was unlike anyone Goku had faced before, a professional killer who had never failed a contract, whose reputation alone made grown men flee in terror. When Tao and Goku met, the assassin was completely confident, seeing just a child and dismissing him as beneath his concern. That confidence lasted until their first exchange of blows, when Tao realized this child was legitimately dangerous. Their battle was brutal. Mercenary Tao used techniques Goku had never encountered, pressure point strikes that paralyzed muscles, attacks that targeted vital organs, and a signature move called the Dodon Ray, a concentrated beam of ki energy fired from his finger. For the first time since his training began, Goku was outmatched. Tao was faster, more skilled, and far more experienced. The fight ended with Tao firing a Dodon Ray directly into Goku's chest at point-blank range. The beam pierced through him, and Goku fell, apparently dead. Mercenary Tao left, confident in his victory and ready to collect his payment. But Goku wasn't dead. The 4-star Dragon Ball, which he kept in his shirt over his heart, had absorbed most of the Dodon Ray's energy, saving his life. He woke up hours later, severely injured but alive, and with a burning determination to become stronger. This near-death experience triggered something fundamental in Goku's Saiyan biology that he didn't understand. Saiyans had a unique ability. Every time they recovered from near-fatal injuries, their power increased dramatically, their bodies adapting to prevent such injuries from threatening them again. Goku had experienced this phenomenon, though he had no idea it was related to his alien heritage. Still, being alive wasn't the same as being strong enough to defeat Tao. Goku needed training, needed to push beyond his current limits. He climbed Korin Tower, a massive structure that pierced through the clouds, so tall that its top couldn't be seen from the ground. Legend said a sage lived at the top, one who possessed sacred water that granted incredible power to whoever drank it. The climb itself took days, the tower's height and smoothness making it a challenge even for someone with Goku's abilities. At the top lived Korin, an ancient cat who had lived for centuries and trained countless warriors. When Goku explained he needed power to defeat mercenary Tao and the Red Ribbon Army, Korin agreed to help him. But not in the way Goku expected. The training was simple in concept. Catch Korin and take the sacred water he carried. In practice, it was nearly impossible. Korin was blindingly fast despite his age, able to dodge Goku's attacks effortlessly while seeming barely to try. For 3 days, Goku chased Korin around the tower's top, learning to read movements, anticipate actions, and react with ever-increasing speed. He didn't realize it, but this was the training, this constant pushing against someone faster than himself. His body adapted, his reflexes sharpened, and his ki control improved as he learned to sense Korin's movements through energy rather than just sight. Finally, exhausted and pushed beyond his limits, Goku managed to catch Korin and claim the sacred water. He drank it eagerly, expecting to feel power flowing through him. But nothing happened. Confused and disappointed, he asked Korin what went wrong. The ancient cat smiled and explained that the sacred water was just ordinary water. The real power came from the training itself, from pushing himself to catch someone faster than him. By the time Goku had managed to take the water, he had already gained the power he sought. It was a lesson in understanding that strength came from effort and growth, not from shortcuts or magic solutions. Armed with his new power, Goku descended Korin Tower and sought out mercenary Tao for a rematch. When they met again, Tao was shocked to see Goku alive, but he remained confident that killing him a second time would be simple. That confidence shattered within seconds of their battle beginning. Goku was faster now, strong enough to match and even surpass Tao's techniques. The assassin who had seemed invincible was now struggling to keep up. Their battle ended decisively this time, with Goku defeating Tao completely. Though he chose not to kill the assassin despite everything Tao had done. With mercenary Tao defeated, Goku turned his attention to the Red Ribbon Army's headquarters. He stormed their main base single-handedly, fighting through hundreds of soldiers, defeating commanders and special operatives, dismantling their defenses like they were paper. Commander Red and his assistant, Staff Officer Black, watched in horror as one child destroyed everything they had built. When Goku finally reached their command center, the Red Ribbon Army's leadership crumbled, with Black killing Red in a dispute over their goals and Goku defeating Black immediately after. The Red Ribbon Army, one of the most powerful and dangerous organizations on Earth, was destroyed by a single teenage boy who just wanted to collect Dragon Balls to honor his grandfather's memory. News of this feat spread across the world, though Goku himself paid little attention to his growing reputation. He had the Dragon Balls he needed, had become significantly stronger, and had made the world safer in the process. These adventures, from training with Roshi to defeating the Red Ribbon Army, established who Goku was becoming. Not just a strong fighter, but a protector. Someone who used his power to help others even when he didn't fully understand the broader implications of his actions. 3 years passed after the Red Ribbon Army's defeat. Years Goku spent training and growing stronger. He spent time with Kami, Earth's guardian, a mysterious figure who lived in a floating temple above Korin Tower. Kami saw potential in Goku beyond anything the boy himself understood. Recognizing that this strange warrior might be Earth's best hope against future threats. The training with Kami focused on ki control, spiritual awareness, and understanding the deeper nature of martial arts beyond simple physical technique. When the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament arrived, Goku entered as a young man rather than a child. His body matured and his power grown exponentially. The tournament brought together familiar faces and new challenges. Krillin was there, having continued his own training and grown stronger as well. Yamcha, Tien, and others who had become Goku's friends over the years all participated. But the most significant presence was a fighter named Ma Jr., who fought with a fierce intensity and power that rivaled Goku's own. Ma Jr. was actually Piccolo Jr., the reincarnation and son of the Demon King Piccolo, whom Goku had defeated years earlier. He had entered the tournament specifically to fight Goku, to avenge his father's defeat and prove himself the superior warrior. Their battles in the tournament were spectacular, displaying techniques and power levels that shocked everyone present. The final match between Goku and Piccolo Jr. was particularly intense, a battle that destroyed much of the tournament arena and pushed both fighters beyond their limits. Goku won the tournament, but barely, using every technique and strategy he had learned. More importantly, he saw something in Piccolo during their battle, a potential for good beneath the anger and desire for vengeance. Rather than killing Piccolo when he had the chance, Goku spared him and even gave him a senzu bean to heal his injuries. This act of mercy would have profound implications for Earth's future, as Piccolo would eventually become one of Goku's closest allies. But perhaps the most personally significant event of that tournament happened before the fighting even began. A mysterious girl entered the tournament, fierce and determined, and when she faced Goku in her match, she demanded to know if he remembered his promise to her. Goku, whose memory for anything not related to fighting was notoriously poor, had no idea what she was talking about. The girl was Chi-Chi, the daughter of the Ox King, whom Goku had met years ago during his first Dragon Ball adventure. When they had first met as children, Goku had innocently agreed to marry Chi-Chi, not understanding what marriage meant and thinking it was perhaps some kind of food. Chi-Chi, however, had taken the promise seriously, spending years training and preparing to become Goku's wife. During their tournament match, she revealed her identity, and Goku finally remembered her. After their battle, Goku asked her to be his bride, this time understanding what the word meant. though his grasp of marriage was still somewhat basic. Chi-Chi tearfully accepted, and they were married shortly after the tournament concluded. Their marriage marked the end of Goku's childhood adventures and the beginning of a new chapter in his life. For several years, Goku lived a relatively peaceful existence, working as a farmer to support his new family and training in his spare time. Chi-Chi became pregnant, and Goku found himself preparing to become a father, a role he approached with the same innocent enthusiasm he brought to everything else. He didn't fully understand parenthood, but he was determined to be there for his child the way Grandpa Gohan had been there for him. This peaceful period, however, was about to end in the most shocking way possible. Goku's past, his true origin, was about to crash back into his life, bringing with it truths that would reshape his understanding of who and what he really was. The arrival of a Saiyan warrior named Raditz would change everything, revealing secrets about Goku's heritage that had been hidden since the day he landed on Earth. But that momentous confrontation and everything that followed was still to come, as Goku enjoyed his brief time as a simple farmer, husband and father-to-be, unaware that the peaceful life he had built was about to be shattered forever. Goku's peaceful life as a farmer and family man came to an abrupt and violent end one ordinary afternoon when something fell from the sky. It wasn't a meteor or a piece of space debris, but a spherical pod identical to the one that had brought Goku to Earth decades earlier. From that pod emerged a Saiyan warrior with long flowing hair, a power level that dwarfed anyone on Earth, and a mission that would shatter everything Goku believed about himself. The warrior's name was Raditz, and he was searching for someone called Kakarot. When he encountered Piccolo, now training in isolation after the tournament, Raditz dismissively overpowered him with casual ease, demonstrating strength far beyond what Earth's defenders had ever faced. His scouter, a device that measured power levels, led him eventually to a reunion gathering at Kame House, where Goku had brought his young son Gohan to meet his old friends. What happened next would change everything. Raditz approached Goku, studying him with an expression mixing disappointment and recognition. "Kakarot," he said, using a name Goku had never heard before. "I've finally found you, brother." The word hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Brother. Goku had a brother. More than that, Goku wasn't human at all. Raditz explained the truth that had been hidden since Goku's arrival on Earth. He was a Saiyan, a member of a warrior race that conquered planets for profit. His real name was Kakarot, and he had been sent to Earth as an infant with a mission to eliminate all life and prepare the planet for sale. The head injury that had changed Goku's personality hadn't just suppressed his aggression, it had prevented him from fulfilling his original purpose. Raditz explained that Planet Vegeta had been destroyed, that only a handful of Saiyans remained in the universe, and that Goku was needed to help conquer other worlds. When Goku refused, explaining that Earth was his home and these people were his family, Raditz responded with violence. With a single knee strike to Goku's stomach, he demonstrated the vast difference in their power, leaving Goku gasping on the ground. Then, To ensure Goku's cooperation, Raditz kidnapped young Gohan, giving Goku an ultimatum: kill 100 humans and bring him their bodies as proof, or his son would die. This crisis forced an unlikely alliance. Piccolo, who had fought Goku at the previous tournament and sworn vengeance, approached with an offer to team up against Raditz. Neither could defeat the Saiyan alone, but together they might have a chance. Goku agreed without hesitation, putting aside their rivalry for the sake of his son and the planet. They tracked Raditz to where his spacepod had crashed and engaged him in battle. The fight revealed the terrifying power gap between Earth's warriors and the Saiyan invaders. Raditz toyed with them initially, dodging their attacks effortlessly while landing devastating counters. Piccolo unveiled a technique he had been developing, the special beam cannon, a concentrated spiral of energy that could pierce through anything but required time to charge. Goku's job was to hold Raditz in place long enough for Piccolo to fire. The plan succeeded, but at a terrible cost. Raditz caught Goku in a hold that the Saiyan couldn't break free from. And when Piccolo fired his attack, it pierced through both Raditz and Goku, mortally wounding them both. As Raditz lay dying, he laughed at their victory, explaining that his scouter had already transmitted a signal to two even stronger Saiyans, who would arrive on Earth in 1 year to avenge him and conquer the planet themselves. Then both brothers died. Goku sacrificing himself to give Earth a chance at survival. But death wasn't the end for Goku. Kami, Earth's guardian, made arrangements for Goku to travel down Snake Way, a 1,000,000-mile-long path in the afterlife that led to King Kai's planet. There, Goku could receive training from King Kai, a deity who taught fighters from across the galaxy. The journey down Snake Way took months, testing Goku's endurance and determination as he ran across the winding path suspended over the clouds of the afterlife. When he finally reached King Kai's planet, a tiny world no bigger than a large house, he discovered that it had gravity 10 times that of Earth. For anyone else, this would have been crippling, but for Goku, whose Saiyan biology had evolved on Planet Vegeta with identical gravity, it felt strangely natural once he adjusted. King Kai was a small, blue-skinned deity with antennae who initially seemed more interested in jokes than training. But his power was immense, and the techniques he taught were unlike anything Goku had learned on Earth. King Kai taught Goku the Kaioken, a technique that multiplied the user's power, speed and strength by temporarily surcharging their body with ki energy. The technique was incredibly dangerous, putting enormous strain on the body and potentially killing the user if they couldn't control it properly. But mastered correctly, it could increase power by 2 times, 3 times, even potentially higher multiples. Goku trained relentlessly, pushing his body to adapt to the technique under King Kai's 10 times gravity. King Kai also taught him the Spirit Bomb, a technique that gathered energy from living things and concentrated it into a massive sphere that could destroy evil while leaving the pure-hearted unharmed. The Spirit Bomb represented King Kai's philosophy, that strength came not just from individual power, but from connection to all living things. After months of training, Goku was resurrected using Earth's Dragon Balls and returned just as the two Saiyans, Vegeta and Nappa, arrived. The battle that followed was devastating. Nappa, the larger of the two Saiyans, killed several of Goku's friends before Goku even arrived, demonstrating power that made Raditz look weak by comparison. When Goku finally reached the battlefield and defeated Nappa with his new techniques, Vegeta, the Saiyan prince, killed his own partner for failing and challenged Goku himself. The battle between Goku and Vegeta pushed both warriors beyond their limits. Goku used the Kaioken, pushing it to ×2, then ×3, then ultimately a desperate Kaioken ×4 that nearly destroyed his body but gave him the edge needed to match Vegeta's power. The fight escalated when Vegeta transformed into a great ape, his power multiplying tenfold and forcing Goku to use the Spirit Bomb. Even that wasn't enough to defeat Vegeta completely, and it took Gohan transforming into a great ape himself and crushing Vegeta before the Saiyan prince finally retreated, swearing revenge but spared by Goku's mercy. The Saiyan invasion's aftermath left Earth's defenders weakened and several of their friends dead. Learning that Piccolo's death had caused Earth's Dragon Balls to become inert since he was connected to Kami, Bulma proposed traveling to Namek, Piccolo's home planet, to use their Dragon Balls to resurrect everyone. Goku, still recovering from his battle with Vegeta, couldn't join immediately, but followed later in a spaceship equipped with a gravity training chamber. During his journey to Namek, Goku trained under progressively higher gravity, pushing his body to adapt to conditions far beyond what he had experienced on King Kai's planet. By the time he arrived on Namek, his power had increased exponentially. But Namek was already in crisis. Frieza, the tyrant who had destroyed Planet Vegeta, was there personally, seeking Namek's Dragon Balls to wish for immortality. His forces, including the elite Ginyu Force, were hunting down Namekians and killing anyone who resisted. When Goku arrived, he found his friends in desperate situations and began rescuing them while facing off against Frieza's strongest warriors. The Ginyu Force proved to be formidable opponents, each possessing unique abilities and power levels far beyond what Goku had faced on Earth. But Goku's training had paid off, and he defeated them one by one, though Captain Ginyu proved tricky when he used his body-switching technique, forcing Goku to trap him in the body of a frog to end the threat. Finally, Goku confronted Frieza himself, the tyrant who had destroyed the Saiyan race, the monster responsible for countless genocides across the universe, faced the low-class Saiyan infant he had unknowingly allowed to escape Planet Vegeta's destruction. Their battle was cataclysmic, with Frieza revealing multiple transformation forms, each one stronger than the last. In his final form, Frieza's power was so immense that even Goku's Kaioken ×20 wasn't enough. The battle seemed hopeless until Frieza made a fatal mistake. He killed Krillin, Goku's best friend, right in front of him. The rage and grief that flooded through Goku in that moment triggered something ancient in his Saiyan blood. His power skyrocketed, his hair turned golden and stood on end, and his eyes became teal and fierce. He had achieved what Frieza feared most. What his father Bardock had seen in his vision, Goku had become a Super Saiyan. The transformation increased his power 50-fold, finally giving him the strength to match and surpass Frieza. Their battle destroyed much of Namek, with Frieza eventually destroying the planet's core in desperation, giving them only minutes before it exploded. Goku defeated Frieza, though he chose to spare the tyrant's life by giving him energy to escape the dying planet. Frieza, unable to accept defeat gracefully, attacked Goku from behind, forcing Goku to finally end the battle with a decisive blast. Goku barely escaped Namek himself, his survival uncertain until he eventually returned to Earth, having spent time on a distant planet recovering and learning to control his new Super Saiyan form. The years following Namek brought new threats and new transformations. A time traveler named Trunks, the son of Vegeta from a dystopian future, warned of artificial humans called androids who would emerge to destroy the world. When those androids appeared, they were followed by an even greater threat. Cell, a bioengineered being created from the cells of Earth's greatest warriors, including Goku himself. Cell's goal was to absorb the androids and achieve his perfect form, at which point his power would surpass everyone. Goku's response was to train like never before. He took his son Gohan into the hyperbolic time chamber, a dimension where time moved differently, allowing them to train for a year in what was only a day outside. But Goku's approach was revolutionary. Rather than seeking a new transformation beyond Super Saiyan, he focused on mastering the form they already had. He and Gohan remained in their Super Saiyan forms constantly, even while eating and sleeping, until the transformation became as natural as breathing. This full-power Super Saiyan, or Mastered Super Saiyan state, eliminated the stamina drain and aggression that normally came with the transformation, creating a calm, efficient version of Super Saiyan that could be maintained indefinitely. When Cell achieved his perfect form and announced the Cell Games, a tournament where Earth's warriors would face him one at a time, Goku fought first. The battle was intense, with Goku using techniques and strategies that pushed Cell hard. But ultimately, Goku realized he couldn't win. Instead, he surrendered and sent in Gohan, believing his son had hidden potential that surpassed his own. Goku's faith was rewarded when Gohan, pushed beyond his breaking point, transformed into Super Saiyan 2, a form that doubled Super Saiyan's power and easily dominated Perfect Cell. But Cell, refusing to accept defeat, initiated a self-destruct sequence that would destroy the entire planet. Goku had only seconds to act, using his instant transmission technique, which allowed him to teleport to any location where he could sense a strong Kai signature. Goku grabbed Cell and vanished. He reappeared on King Kai's planet in the afterlife, apologizing to his old mentor, before Cell exploded, destroying King Kai's planet and killing both Cell and Goku in the process. In the manga, the explosion happened almost instantly after they arrived, giving Goku no time to escape. His sacrifice saved Earth but left his family and friends mourning once again. 7 years passed with Goku remaining dead by choice, believing Earth would be safer without him attracting powerful enemies. He trained in the afterlife, pushing his power to new heights and even unlocking Super Saiyan 3, a form that multiplied Super Saiyan 2's power by 4 but consumed energy at an enormous rate. When he was granted one day to return to Earth for a martial arts tournament, he found his youngest son, Goten, born after his death, and discovered that threats to Earth continued, regardless of his absence. The wizard Babidi released Majin Buu, an ancient monster of pure chaos whose power surpassed anything Goku had faced. Goku demonstrated Super Saiyan 3 for the first time, his hair growing dramatically long and his power shaking the entire planet. But even this form could only fight Buu to a stalemate. The battle against Buu's various forms pushed Earth's defenders to their absolute limits, forcing Goku to use fusion techniques that combined warriors' power, creating Vegito. When he fused with Vegeta using the Potara earrings, Vegito was so powerful that he toyed with Super Buu, demonstrating power that exceeded anything in the universe. Ultimately, Goku destroyed Kid Buu, the original and most dangerous form of the monster, using a massive spirit bomb powered by energy from everyone on Earth and throughout the universe. Years of peace followed Buu's defeat, but Goku's respite ended when Beerus, the god of destruction, arrived on Earth seeking the Super Saiyan God. Beerus was a deity whose power made everything Goku had faced seem like child's play. Someone who could destroy planets with a tap and entire galaxies if he felt like it. When Beerus learned that no Super Saiyan God existed, he prepared to destroy Earth out of disappointment. Goku proposed that they create a Super Saiyan God using an ancient ritual that required 5 righteous Saiyans to channel their energy into a 6th. The ritual worked, transforming Goku into Super Saiyan God, a form with lean muscles and crimson aura that represented divine rather than mortal power. In this state, Goku could finally match Beerus in combat, engaging in a battle that threatened the entire universe. Though Goku eventually lost, he impressed Beerus enough that the god of destruction spared Earth. More importantly, Goku absorbed the Super Saiyan God power into his base form, permanently increasing his strength. Beerus' attendant, Whis, offered to train Goku and Vegeta, teaching them techniques that even gods struggle to master. Whis' training focused on Kai control and body awareness, teaching them to move each part of their body independently and to contain their ki inside rather than letting it leak out as auras. He taught them to fight instinctively, to let their bodies react faster than their minds could process information. This training was conducted in special environments, including a mystical fog that paralyzed them if their ki leaked out, forcing perfect control. Through this training, Goku achieved Super Saiyan Blue, a transformation that combined Super Saiyan with godly ki. The form had cyan hair and aura, representing the perfect ki control Whis had taught them. Unlike Super Saiyan God, which was lean and relied on godly energy, Super Saiyan Blue was muscular and combined godly ki with Super Saiyan's multiplier, creating a form that was more powerful and controllable. When Frieza returned, resurrected by his loyal followers and having achieved his own golden form through training, Goku used Super Saiyan Blue to fight him, demonstrating that he had reached a level that the tyrant who once seemed invincible could barely match. The Tournament of Power brought together the greatest warriors from 8 universes, all fighting for survival. The stakes were unprecedented. Losing universes would be erased from existence entirely. Goku faced opponents with powers and techniques beyond anything he had imagined, each battle pushing him harder. Among them was Jiren, a mortal whose power exceeded his universe's god of destruction, a warrior who had transcended normal limits through sheer will and training. When Goku fought Jiren, every form he possessed proved insufficient. Super Saiyan Blue, Kaioken times 20, even a massive spirit bomb gathering energy from everyone in his universe, all were overwhelmed by Jiren's immense power. Jiren deflected the spirit bomb back at Goku, and the resulting explosion should have eliminated him from the tournament. Instead, something extraordinary happened. Goku's body absorbed the spirit bomb's energy, while his consciousness faded. In that semi-conscious state, with his mind clear of thought and his heart pure, his body achieved something even gods struggled to master: Ultra Instinct. This wasn't a transformation in the traditional sense, but a state of being where the body moved independently of thought, reacting to threats faster than neurons could fire. In his initial omen or sign state, Goku's hair became slightly silver and his eyes turned silver, with a unique aura surrounding him. Ultra Instinct. Omen allowed Goku to fight Jiren on equal terms, his body dodging and countering with perfect efficiency. The angels, including Whis, were shocked, because Ultra Instinct was the technique Whis had been trying to teach them, a state that not even all gods of destruction had mastered. Beerus's expression showed genuine awe and perhaps fear as he realized Goku had reached a level that challenged divine hierarchy. Goku awakened Ultra Instinct Omen multiple times during the Tournament of Power, each instance bringing him closer to mastery. Finally, in his climactic battle with Jiren, watching his friends and universe face elimination, Goku broke through to mastered Ultra Instinct. His hair turned completely silver, his eyes blazing with silver light, and his aura became calm yet overwhelming. In this state, he achieved perfect offense and defense, his body moving with flawless efficiency while his power reached heights that surpassed even the gods watching the tournament. Mastered Ultra Instinct. Goku dominated Jiren, countering every attack and landing devastating blows that the once untouchable warrior couldn't defend against. The form represented the pinnacle of martial arts, the perfect unity of body, mind, and spirit that fighters had pursued for millennia. Though Goku eventually lost the form due to its immense strain and couldn't defeat Jiren alone, he had achieved something that would forever change his potential. He had reached a level that meant he would never stop growing, never stop pushing toward greater heights. Following the Tournament of Power, Goku continued training to master Ultra Instinct and access it at will, rather than only in desperate situations. New threats emerged constantly, including Broly, a legendary Super Saiyan with power that rivaled and potentially exceeded Goku's own. Facing Broly required Goku and Vegeta to fuse into Gogeta, combining their powers to overcome the Berserker Saiyan. Later, battles against Moro, a powerful wizard who consumed planet's energy, and Granola, who wished to become the strongest warrior in the universe, pushed Goku to refine his Ultra Instinct and develop new variations of the technique. The revelation of Black Frieza, who achieved a new transformation that surpassed both Goku and Vegeta's strongest forms, demonstrated that the journey never truly ended. No matter how powerful Goku became, new challenges would always emerge, new opponents to test himself against, new heights to reach. But this endless journey was exactly what Goku wanted. He didn't fight for conquest or domination, but for the pure joy of testing his limits and becoming stronger. From an infant sent to conquer a planet, to a warrior who achieved power rivaling the gods themselves, Goku's journey has been extraordinary. Born as Kakarot on a doomed planet, given the name Son Goku by a kind old man who raised him, he became Earth's greatest defender, despite being an alien sent to destroy it. Every transformation, every technique, every battle taught him something new and pushed him beyond what seemed possible. His Super Saiyan transformation on Namek fulfilled an ancient legend and began a legacy that would inspire other Saiyans to reach new heights. His mastery of Super Saiyan during the Cell games showed that refinement could match raw power. Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan God, and Super Saiyan Blue each represented different approaches to strength, different philosophies of power. And finally, Ultra Instinct showed that the ultimate power came not from transformations or godly energy, but from perfect unity between body and mind. Throughout his journey, Goku maintained the pure heart that Grandpa Gohan instilled in him. He spared enemies like Vegeta and Piccolo, who became his greatest allies. He sacrificed himself multiple times to protect Earth. He trained the next generation, preparing Gohan, Goten, and others to protect the planet when he couldn't. His influence spread beyond Earth, earning respect from gods and mortals across multiple universes. Goku's story is ultimately one of endless growth and boundless potential. The low-class Saiyan infant with a power level of 2 became the mortal who mastered Ultra Instinct. The boy who knew nothing but mountains and martial arts became the warrior who decided the fate of universes. The child who accidentally killed his grandfather became the hero who saved countless lives across the cosmos. Every challenge made him stronger, every loss taught him lessons, every victory brought new horizons to explore. The journey from origins to Ultra Instinct isn't just about power levels and transformations. It's about a pure-hearted warrior who never stopped growing, never stopped challenging himself, never stopped protecting those he loved. It's about someone who faced gods and monsters with a smile, who turned enemies into friends through his actions and example, who inspired everyone around him to become better versions of themselves. And perhaps most importantly, Goku's journey isn't over. New transformations await. New opponents will emerge. New challenges will test him in ways he can't yet imagine. The Saiyan who came from Planet Vegeta has become Son Goku of Earth, defender of the universe, master of Ultra Instinct, and a living legend whose story continues to unfold. From that small space pod that crashed into Mount Paozu, to the cosmic battles that shake entire universes, Goku's life has been an extraordinary journey that shows no signs of ending anytime soon. So, if you've enjoyed this complete journey through Goku's life, from his origins as Kakarot to achieving Ultra Instinct and beyond, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments what your favorite moment from Goku's journey was, or which transformation you think is the most significant. Thanks for joining me on this epic exploration of one of anime's most iconic warriors, and I'll see you in the next video.